Alright, guys, it is National Championship Week. Um, there's obviously some bias out of me, if you didn't already know, as a Michigan fan. So this week is especially impactful for me. Michigan's one of the teams that I've been the most passionate about in my life, and one of the ones that, unfortunately, up until the last few years, hasn't really been competitive in the way that I would hope they would be. But definitely a game changer this season, and had me on quite a roller coaster ride emotionally over the last three games, Ohio State, Iowa, and the game against Alabama. But I want to just take a few minutes to really kind of give my thoughts on the game coming in, what I would like to see out of the game, and what I expect to see out of the game. So I'll start with the thoughts coming in. Honestly, very happy with the way that Michigan played against Alabama. Had a lot of worries and concerns after the Iowa game. Iowa obviously presented a really good defense, but the fact that they were willing and able to stop us in such a way to where for most of that game it looked like the tides could turn at any moment if Iowa had an offense, which they don't. So a lot of worry after that game, especially knowing that we were going into Alabama with quite a, I wouldn't say a potent offense, but they had weapons that could change the tide of the game in a blink of an eye. Milrow being one in particular, I was really worried about his scramble ability, which was a valid worry to have because it's basically the only offense they had was him running the ball. But I had some worries going into that game, and I'm really glad that Michigan kind of shut down those worries. Special teams, on one hand, I don't know what the fuck's happening with that. There's the plays, especially the two muff punts. I mean, those are plays you can't make, especially the one at the end of the game. I don't even know why you're trying to fair catch it at the 4-yard line. That you got to take your chances and just let that thing bounce to the end zone. And if it stops at the 1, it stops at the 1. But you cannot risk putting somebody out there who hasn't played in the game all day for his first snap of the game and damn near losing the game that way. I almost pulled my hair out after that because the way that things have went the last 2 years for the football playoff for Michigan, it's kind of been that way. Like, you have momentum, you think things are going to go your way, and then something happens, and stupid mistakes happen, and dumbass plays happen, and you're like, oh, well, it's happening again. So, early on when the fumble happened, and that first play in particular where McCarthy threw one of the worst balls ever and just got lucky that it was an illegal touching, part of me was like, oh no, it's happening again. Like, we're running into this issue of we can't execute in the biggest game. But I'm glad that in the second half, particularly the fourth quarter, we were able to turn that around and play Michigan football again and overcome those mistakes. And getting into overtime, I had a really good feeling about it because our special teams was our weakest point, and their special teams was probably their strongest point in that game, and overtime eliminates special teams. So when it went to overtime, I had a pretty good feeling that we were going to win the game, and I'm glad that our defense was able to make that stop and send us to the national championship. Now to the other side, Washington. It's definitely a vaunting offense to worry about going into this game. Penix is pretty incredible. I think he should be a top 10 quarterback pick this year. Top 10 pick as a quarterback. Because of his age and his injury history, I think he'll probably slide to the late first, early second, probably, which isn't deserving of what his skills have shown. But unfortunately, when you're going to be 25 and you have two pretty serious injuries in your college history, scouts are going to use that against you. But anyway, that offense it's definitely something to worry about. Playing against Texas, that was the second incredible game. Honestly, these two college football playoff semi games were by far the best two we've had since the playoffs started. Most years it's been blowouts. The first 8 seasons that the college football playoff was a thing, the average margin of victory in the semifinal round was 21 points. The last 2 years, it's been 5 points. So the committee really got it right the last couple of years. Whether Florida State fans want to hear that or not, or Georgia fans want to hear that or not, they really got it right because those are the games that you want on TV in the biggest moments. TV networks are happy about it. I'm sure ESPN's happy about it, and I'm sure the college football committee is happy about those two games. That's a game that I really felt like Washington had a strong handle on for most of it. I really don't know what the fuck happened at the end of that game. They had no business allowing Texas to get that close to winning the game. The fact that it came down to a final play is, I mean, it's still absurd to me. But it's just bad luck for them, if we're going to be entirely honest. Dylan Johnson, I believe the running back's name is, getting injured as they're trying to run the clock out, and being a serious enough injury where he can't get off the field and has to burn one of their own timeouts. That's just terrible luck. I mean, for a team that was just trying to run the clock out and punch their ticket to the national championship, you just went from giving Texas 16, 17 seconds after a punt to try to do something to giving them almost a whole minute. And it's your own player, and that's the shitty part of it. But I mean, Washington looks incredible. I was rooting for them, and I've been kind of rooting for them all year. I like the underdog mentality that they have. It's been like, I think they've been an underdog in the last 4 games, going back to the game before the Pac-12 championship. They were underdogs against Oregon, underdogs in their playoff game, and they're probably underdogs against Michigan. I haven't looked at the line, but I'm sure they are. But it's something that I really like that team, and if they were playing anybody but Michigan, I'd probably be rooting for them to win this game. But you know, it's either way, it's gonna be a deserving team, in my opinion, that wins it, whether people want to say that or not about everything that's happened with Michigan this year. Either way, I think the winning team is going to be the team that deserved to win it, if that makes sense. Now, what I want to see out of the game. Bottom line, I do not want to see a blowout in either way, whether it's in favor of Michigan or Washington. Plain and simple, blowouts are just boring to watch. I mean, look at last year with Georgia and TCU. Look at the year before that with Georgia and Alabama. They're not fun games to watch when it's not competitive. The expectation is that you have the 2 best teams in the country playing for the national championship, and when one of them is clearly and far and away better than the other, I mean, A, it makes it seem like one of them didn't deserve to be there, and B, it's just not good TV. And that's all. I mean, money makes the world go round, especially in entertainment and sports. And I know that the executives and NCAA and all of them, they couldn't have been happy with last year against TCU. I mean, hell, I think I watched the first 20 minutes of that game, and then I was like, oh, well, I know how this is going to go now. Sorry, TCU. So either way, I don't want to blow out. Even as a Michigan fan, I don't want to see a 42-7 Michigan win. That's not the game that is going to entertain me. I'm not the type to gloat and you know, take pride in a ass beating like that. What I really would like to see, and this is me painting a picture, what I really want to see is a close game through and through. As a defensive-minded person, and I've always appreciated and loved defense more than offense, I want to see a low-scoring game, but not too low-scoring. I don't want to see like a 13-10, but I'm thinking 24-20. I would like to see a final like that, obviously in favor of Michigan. But I really want it to come down just like the 2 semifinal games do. I would like to see Washington with the ball last. I would like to see them get down to the 5-yard line or so with 10-15 seconds left on the clock, and I would like to see those 3 or 4 plays attempted to try to score the game-winning touchdown. And obviously the Michigan defense that's been so great all year stands up and wins a national championship. I think that would be the best product, the most entertaining product, and obviously the best result for me and thousands and thousands of Michigan fans. And I mean, that's just the opinion of what I want to see. Obviously, I'm not going to give you any result that's going to have Washington ending up as the winner. Now, what I think is going to happen is, man, it's tough because I think I'm not going to give a prediction because there's going to be bias in it, and I don't want to jinx myself. But here's what I do know: the winner of the game is going to be the team that makes the other team play their style of football, if that makes sense. So in the case of Washington, Washington will win the game if they force Michigan to play like several possessions and fast football and quick scores and high flying and things like that. If the Michigan defense can't stop the air raid and Michael Penix and all of those weapons that Washington has, if they force Michigan to keep up in a shootout, I don't think Michigan's going to win the game. I think Washington will thoroughly have their way with the game. Like I said, hopefully not a blowout, but I think that they will be the team on top if that's the type of game that starts to unfold. Now, in the other chair, I think that if we play Michigan football and it's low scoring and very low amount of possessions, not time of possession, but actual physical possessions. So let's say the offense only gets 9 possessions in the game or 11 possessions in the game. That's the kind of football that Michigan wants to play, and I think if that's the kind of football that happens on Monday, that will be really good and in favor of Michigan, and I think they'll win. That's the kind of football Michigan's played all year, where a team might only get 10 possessions, and you got to think about it. If you got 10 possessions, you have to score on as many of them as possible, especially against a defense like Michigan, where you have that sense of urgency as an offense that you're gonna, hey, we have to get something. It's got to be 3 at least. Like, we have to go down the field and we have to do something because we know that we're not going to get a lot of chances to score. And that's actually worked in favor of Michigan this year a few times because there's teams that make more mistakes because they feel that urgency. They feel that fire lit under their ass, like, hey, this might be the last time we get the ball and we have to do something with it. So if that's the type of football that gets played where it's a lot of defense and it's hard-nosed and it's running the football and Washington can't play that high-flying ball they played all year and Penix doesn't have an off-the-wall crazy game, if that's the kind of game that rolls out, I don't see Washington finding a way to win. And granted, Washington, to their credit, has won basically every close game. Well, actually, they have. Technically, they're undefeated. But, they've been in a lot of close games this year. And a lot of games that they probably shouldn't have won. But they have a very clutch offense and a very clutch team that knows how to win when they need to. Is there a chance they can win in that kind of environment and that kind of play style? Sure, but I personally don't see it happening. So I think that would be in favor of Michigan. So if it's low-scoring defense, low amount of possessions, things like that, I think you get a Michigan win. And if it's the other side where it's high-flying and it's lots of points and it's a shootout, I think Washington wins. I don't really see there being something in the middle. We've seen Michigan and J.J. McCarthy and them throw for over 300 yards and try to keep up with high flying if they have to. Hell, just last year in TCU, they scored 45 points and still lost the game. So we have seen that out of them, but it's not the style of football they want to play. And it makes them uncomfortable as an offense. And I just don't see that being good for Michigan if that's what they have to do. And same thing with Washington. If they have to play slow ball and they have to, run the football and Michigan secondary stops them and Penix can't do what he wants with the ball and things along those natures, I think it's going to be bad for them. But like I said, I'm not going to give a final prediction just because I have bias in it, so I'm not going to do that. But I genuinely just want a really good game. If we can get anything even close to what the 2 semifinal games were, then I think we're really in for a good national championship and probably arguably the best one we've seen in a long time. Maybe going back to the Deshaun Watson Clemson game with Hunter Renfrow, which is the last really good one I can remember, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'll hop back on here after the national championship and give my thoughts on the game, and I'll either be really happy or really sad. But I'll give my thoughts and my opinions on everything and everything that came from it. But I appreciate everybody checking back in. I'm happy to be back, and can't wait to talk to y'all next time. Thanks.